Hello and welcome to PPC Live, the podcast. I'm your host, Anu, the founder of PPC Live. And if you're used to hearing advice from PPC experts about how to ensure that we are keeping up with the ever-changing landscape, don't worry, you are still in the right place. Every week, I speak to a different PPC expert about their biggest F-up, but also how they turn things around. We share, the highlights, the lowlights. Yeah, loads of more lowlights than highlights. But we do get to the highlights of how they turn things around, not just talking about what was disappointing and the people who felt like were getting in the way of progress, but the people also who were very supportive, the clients who got on board very quickly and really understood that, it was the hard work that they were putting into the finding a solution for them that was most important than actually the mistake. And this week I have the very great pleasure of speaking to Maddie Lightening, who is a paid media lead at Hallam, a fantastic agency up in the north of England. And she talks about some underreporting that she did because of not checking some settings and just different. She also shares a few mistakes of not just the one, in terms of just sharing some these kind of setting mistakes that kind of we overlook, that we should really try to make sure that we keep an eye on so that we don't make the same mistakes in 2026. Some of these things that she mentioned, for sure, we shouldn't be making them in 2026, but it is mistakes that still happen. So let's listen to her story so that you don't make the same mistake as well. All right, let's go speak to Maddie. Hello, Maddie. Welcome to PPC Live, the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a delight. And I've got to say that you guys are speaking to Maddie Lightning, which is her actual marital name. This was not a branding ploy. A year ago, she became Maddie Lightning when she got married. And husband has been the one dealing with the whole, really? Is that your name for the longest time? And now she's going to be dealing with that, I imagine. But I feel like it will be great for interviews. You can use that as a lightning by name, lightning by, work ethics kind of thing. We're all like, fast and quick work. But no, lightning is not just, last name that she uses as a ploy at all. Maddie is someone who has been a paid media leader for over a decade of experience. She helps brands grow through intelligent, performance-driven advertising. And she's the head of paid media at Hallam. And this was, in fact, sorry, I've also got to add that I'm just so impressed that she joined Hallam maybe a year ago, and a year in, they were like, yeah, we see this talent. In fact, from the interview, they saw the talent, but it took some restructuring for her to then get to the head of paid media role. So, she's doing amazing work with them, leading strategy across a wide mix of channels, from search and social to programmatic, digital, out of home, and ABM, always with a focus of delivering measurable commercial impact. She started her career through apprenticeship, and quickly specialized in paid media, and has since built a reputation for blending strategic thinking with hands-on expertise across global campaigns and platforms. She's recognized as one of the BIMA 100 and a regular conference speaker. And she's now focused on how AI and data are reshaping the future of media. Really, anyone that wants to get ahead should have that on their radar for sure. And she's always driven with a clear goal, helping brands reach the right audiences and turn investment into real growth. So yeah, that is amazing. I love your nodding along with all of that, because you're like, yeah, I agree. That's me. I did all that amazing
sounds
work.
about right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Amazing. Fun fact. You know me, I share with our guests our fun facts. So Maddie, what's your fun fact?
Well, we were just saying that when I first met Anu, it was at Brighton SEO, and she was comparing the stage. And when I was asked a fun fact at that point of time, I didn't have one. So we just said that I make banana bread. But these days, I'm much more into my Formula One, and I've actually met both of the McLaren F1 drivers, so Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
Amazing. And how did that meet happen? Was that you bought a ticket specifically for it to happen, or they were just walking by, you're like, oh my God.
No, I'm not that lucky. But that being said, I'm very lucky in that my husband actually works for McLaren, so they do friends and family days and barbecues and things like that. So I just kind of tagged along, and whilst he was being really professional, I was fangirling.
I mean, sorry, I would. I mean, I can't say I am a huge F1 fan, but an institution kind of thing, right? If I was on those invites, I'd be like, oh my God, I might turn my ring around and be like, I'm sure you were better than me. Yeah. Any guy that's working for Formula One is thinking, yeah, we're not taking Anu to Formula One Family Friends Day.
Well,
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, fantastic wide range of interests there. But one thing I always have to mention is just a big gratitude to you, Maddie, for being able to being so eager. I asked Maddie, and within minutes I got the response, yes, I want to be on the podcast. And I was like, yay, that's a kind of energy I like people to bring, knowing that mistakes don't define us. We've done them, we learned from them, we can talk about them, because hey, you're now head of paid media. That didn't stop you in any way. So yeah, let's hope that what our listeners hear is something that they can learn from, so that they don't make the same mistakes, and know that even in the middle of mistakes, there's always a fix, and we can always turn things around and be great in the industry. So Maddie, take it away. Yeah, I think you have a few of them for us today. So yeah, what are the F-ups you'd like to share with us today?
I do have I'll start with a small one, which is just something I genuinely didn't even realize. It was like, sometimes you make a mistake and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have made that mistake. I know better. This was not one of them. I had no clue. So it's just nice to figure it out. And luckily no real damage was done. But on account currencies. So I work with a few clients that are based in Australia, but they work with me in the UK. They have a UK business even, but it's just running off of an Australian card, for example, doing the billing. So when you set up an account like that with Google Ads, for example, it actually translates that currency for the conversion value as well. So that obviously plays into the ROAS metric and everything. And the Australian dollar is more or less about double what the Great British Pound is. So I was actually halving what I was reporting to them when actually it was accurate. So I ended up massively underreporting. We finally figured it out when I looked at their CRM data and was like, oh no, we're running at double the ROAS and value that I'm actually telling you.
Yeah. So a nice turnaround, but still you don't want to be, underreporting for too long. It just makes it look like, you're not necessarily, you don't know what you're doing. You didn't look at that properly. But yeah, it's always nice when a little bit of that kind of mistake actually means that, yeah, you can go to them with better data. Were there any people that were annoyed by you by that happening?
I don't think so, because it was genuinely quite an honest mistake. And obviously we came out with double the performance with no optimizations even needed, which is sort of the dream.
Yeah.
But also, I guess, just in this scenario, it's quite easy to work out GBP to AUD because it is just times it by 2 or divide it by 2. Whereas if it had been I don't know, a baht or a different currency, euro even, it's not quite as clear of a sort of in-head metric. I'd have to look up currency converter and all of that. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the next F-up you'd like to share.
Yes. So I actually got bit by this one so recently, and it was just sometimes things go wrong in generally in performance, and this one actually ties to seasonality. So a lot of the time you can't do anything about the season, and different businesses react differently to different seasons. But it's just when these things happen and all eyes are on paid media and it feels like a panic, and you kind of can feel flustered to make a lot of changes all in once. And so that's what this story relates to, which is one of my travel clients in January. They weren't having the strongest performing month. We couldn't really identify why, because nothing massive had changed in their paid media account. Other things we knew organic was down, we knew that demand was slightly down, but generally speaking, CPCs were double what they were the year before, and we couldn't really find one definitive reason. It was one of those, there's 5 small reasons all working together against us.
Right.
So yeah, in this account, I just want to go for a bit of their account structure. They are running the perfect 2026 structure, so a legacy structure. It's super granular. It's kind of single keyword ad group vibes, but it's also for a massive travel company. So we're looking at 2,000 campaigns and way more ad groups.
Just quickly, you said it's running the perfect 2026. Do you mean the 2016?
Oh, I did. Sorry. Yeah,
No
they're
worries.
running on 2016 structure. So yeah, sort of old school. And then obviously to move them to more 2026, I'd say it's all about like this data consolidation, having all of the data like working together in a smaller sort of array, especially of things like broad match, AI max, keywords, meaning that like, I don't know if a lot of people are still big fans of the SCAG structure.
Mm,
I'm personally not a big user of it these days. So yeah, a lot of consolidation went through that account in a short amount of time, loads of different bid strategy testings. And like, to be fair, probably what I would go against saying is best practice to run so many tests at once. But you know, when performance is bad and you just need all hands on deck.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we did that. We were making loads of changes, but just that like performance had, I think it's fair to say, fallen off a cliff,
Clear.
which isn't pleasant, and just like that sense of panic and to do so much at once, but also needing to take that step back and prioritize what you're doing still to get the best wins.
Absolutely. How long ago was this?
This was in January. We've just
Gosh. This was in January. And was that, I hope you don't get into trouble for this, like, was it a structure you inherited, or was it a structure that you guys won this client and, you know, your strategy team went, yep, this is how the campaign structure should be? Okay.
No, so we did inherit it from another
Okay.
agency. But that being said, it's not to throw shade on anyone's work, because I think if it's working, don't change it, right?
Right.
But I'd just say that there was a time where that was perfect, and it's just like as accounts grow, you add more and you continue what you've got.
Yeah.
But then like I just think it's only recently that I'd really double down on this need to consolidate, and that's all
Yeah.
with like the AI Max and all of the AI things really needing that data to be grouped together rather than split out over loads of ad groups.
Okay. And who was, so you said that, you know, really great phrase though, of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so you guys saw this structure that was very granular. And, you know, you're like, okay, performance is well, clients are happy, so let's not touch the structure just yet. But it then took, what would you guys have done differently, like in terms of before that hitting the Christmas time of it being, yeah, bad performance? How would you now have approached that process differently?
I love this question because actually it's one that we instantly answered in like the next QBR. We were like, okay, well, this happened. We all know that this happened. Let's not go over the performance anymore. But saying like, this is why it happened and this is what we should have done. And to be fair, when we pitched for this client, which was like back in November, so we'd only had them for a couple months.
Sure.
When we pitched, the whole backbone of our pitch was to say like, we need to restructure your account.
Sure.
And it's just that we had such a big restructure on our hands that we were like, let's wait until we get out of the peak period, which is
Yeah.
now, to start rolling out the restructure. So it's just that people started panicking, we started consolidating.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we got to the end of it. But yeah, I think what I would have done is maybe not been so strict on like that scale approach, because we could have, to be fair, just started the restructure in November.
Yeah.
And I think it's that sense of risk aversion, isn't it? Where like, well, it was a risk to delay in this case, but it was equally, it would have been a risk to move it forward to November.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it might have been a risk that would have paid off a lot better, especially, yeah, coming to like see, it was a travel client kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people doing holiday bookings. And that's the thing. It's terms of like thinking about when you do those things based on who the client is, what the brand is, what will actually, what's important, what kind of strategy needs to be live at a certain season of time. Okay. Okay. So it sounded like everyone got on board with it. There weren't people who were a bit of a stickler of like, why are you guys doing this now? This performance, what were the client like? Were they really upset?
Upset isn't the word. I think like I've worked with some clients in the past that, you know, could be rude in this situation, and they were not rude. They were scared, I think is the best way to
Sure.
explain it. You know, when you're at like your busiest 2 months of the year, and like that's where, you know, like 80% of their ad spend goes across the whole 12 months, just to all of a sudden not see like green on our reports year on
Yeah.
year was, I think, the nerve-wracking thing. But that is probably like the one of the biggest challenges I've been in my career so far, like having external agencies all running audits on the account at the same time to see if they could find anything that I was just kind of oblivious to. So
Yeah.
like that's scary in its own, having like
Yeah.
loads of people mark your work.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Very fair point. I was thinking of the question and I was like, oh, and you actually even kind of like skirted around it, saying about how is there anything that you had missed or anything that you weren't let know? Do you feel that there was any information that you weren't aware of till the performance happened and that made you think if I'd known this, we would have implemented that structure a lot quicker?
There was like a few things at play. So like there was a day where like the forms weren't working on their mobile site, for example, which like doesn't help. And then I like, if I had known immediately, I could have added that data exclusion, but the
Yeah.
time kind of passed. So I like that never got added, for example. But there's also things like on the CPCs rising, I was looking at the search terms year on year, and I was looking at the competition year on year. I was looking at the match type year on year. I was looking at
Yeah.
literally everything I could look at, and bearing in mind in this such granular account, so it's taking like an entire day.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm just looking at the CPCs, and I'm like, I can't see a reason they've increased. And then obviously we know that these ad platforms will put up the CPCs kind of at will. Like
Yeah.
they could turn around and triple them tomorrow. And if
Yeah.
that was the way it was going to be, I couldn't necessarily change it. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I think we just need to accept these higher CPCs.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. And I think that's on me to be like, well, maybe you should like have that more probing instinct to be like, well, why is that way? And why is it increased? And why can't we bring it down?
Yeah.
Whereas I think maybe I just not defeatism, but obviously if Google sets a CPC, that's what you've got to pay for the
Yeah.
CPC sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it is like that. I'm actually taking things a little bit in terms of like personally for you, because like, right at the beginning of this, we we shared the really lovely news of like you entered into the role of being head of paid media. That must have been around the time of
Yes.
this happening.
I was so worried. I was interviewing and I was like, oh no.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thankfully that didn't affect, yeah, yeah, clearly you getting the role. So yeah, there was a bit of like being nervous. Did you guys just speak about it even during the interview process, or you were just like, let's not focus on, your past, like what you've done amazingly? How did that affect the conversation?
I did think that in the interview process it would come up like what is one of the biggest challenges you've ever faced. But I think the team that I was speaking to, which is our CEO, our growth manager, and my director, I think they had just seen me going through it. So they were like, don't even ask her. But to be fair, like the Hallam team are so supportive. So like
Mm,
the whole time I felt like I had people to work through my thoughts with. Like basically our whole paid media team was on this restructure and looking at bugs and trying to do anything literally
yeah.
that would help. And
Yeah.
I think like there were times like we got on a call with the owners of this client, and like that can be really nerve-wracking. And I like at all points was like, oh well, it's nerve-wracking to the point where I'm scared. Or like not scared, but like I want this problem fixed,
Yeah.
and like it feels big and it does feel like overwhelming. But
Yeah.
actually I think turning that on its head is that was why like the way I felt about it, but actually I should have maybe just felt open to having the conversation. I had so much help around me, and
Yeah.
like going into it really solution orientated rather than like bogged down in the reality is gonna happen, but like it is paid media. We can get through it. So yeah, maybe not trying to take the whole weight of the world on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant anecdote for people to remember that, because we all talk about, yeah, mistake doesn't mean that you're not going to, make a greater, gain a greater opportunity in the distant future. But to think that something was going wrong literally right around the time where you were going for an opportunity and you still made the opportunity, because people see the right companies, the right employers will see you beyond your latest immediate mistake. And how you actually led people out of that mistake is also like an important no. You said there was one more like kind of mistake that you'd like to share. So let's not hog all the time with just those two. But I feel that was a very important one because account structure is a big deal that we talk about in terms of AI. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Maddie. But yeah, what else would you like to share?
So I've got one small one and then maybe a bigger one, but it's not a mistake I've made. It's actually, I think, a common mistake in general.
Okay.
So just to tag on to my last one with this small sort of tidbit is that when I was saying about those CPC increases, I think something that can often go unappreciated or unknown even
Mm,
is that in Google Ads, even if you're using a target ROAS bid strategy or like max conversion value side of that, you can still maintain some control over your CPC. So what we did actually was bung all of these campaigns into portfolio bidding structures, and you can apply a max CPC cap on that, which I think a lot of people say isn't best practice because, you've got this bid strategy that is meant to have the freedom to go and bid as aggressively as it
Yeah.
seems fit to get you that goal. But actually, so many things are at play, especially an account that was so large. And
Mm,
so implementing the CPC cap, we literally halved the CPC we were getting to match the year before.
nice.
And we've not seen any performance decline from it. So I think, AI is great and smart bidding, I'm a massive advocate for it. But I think a lot of PPCers are feeling stretched for what control they have over these platforms
Yeah.
anymore. And this was just like a nice way that I reclaimed some of that control and actually didn't see any sort of fallback for it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, we talk about it like every year. A lot of the articles I write, there's always like in the new year, and let's say in Q1, there's someone that's done a report saying CPCs has increased. CPCs are, and there's never been one year I wrote it. It's like, oh, CPC is like stable. No, like literally for the past maybe like 10 years or so, CPCs have been increasing. So,
I think that's
make,
why I just accepted it, and I was
yeah.
just like, "Well, this is what's gonna happen."
Yeah. Yeah, but no, you don't need to. And look at those controls that you can have. It's not about going to Google all the time. I think sometimes we're just like, oh, Google are just shoving AI down our throat. Yeah, pay attention. Stop getting all excited with the flashing lights of the major news, new thing, new AI thing. Still look at what's available for you in your account for what's applicable for your client and implement those controls that you can have before they take them all away. I know that there's always a fear that they will take it away, but you've still got something to control your account with, so use them. And maybe sometimes, but I think Google also has this thing of like, which is natural for most any like SaaS tool or like any business tool. If you don't use a feature, they will take that away. So if you think the feature to control is not there and nobody uses it, they will take it away. So maybe to stop Google from taking it away, use it. So guys, so
Yeah.
there's one tidbit from. Go on, Maddie. You said you have something else to share.
Yes. So I think it kind of ties into what we were just saying, that it does feel that AI is being kind of shoved in our faces and that we're not gonna have the choice whether to use it or not.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that mindset. I've felt that way in the past, but I think being opportunistic and looking for ways to break the system is
Yeah.
something I love to do. I've
Great.
actually managed, and I don't want to go into it because I think it's such a small thing that I've done in my entire career, but I found a way, for example, to run a PMAX campaign with only shopping placements.
Oh,
And it ran really well. It basically runs like a smart shopping campaign before they
yeah.
got retired. So, like, always finding ways to not conform to what you're told. But yeah, I worked at an agency previously that had a full AI ban, and that was across everything. And that one I think is a mistake. I feel like that's long term just kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Say that bit again. Like you for people just implementing AI across everything.
Yes, yeah. So a ban on like using ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT to help me write like set me up for like a blog structure, or if I'm giving a webinar, for example, I'll say like tell me what order to put these slides
Yeah.
in. Even to like the most minimal extent, like smart bidding relies on AI to put your bids in the right place. And I've
Yeah.
been using that since it was rolled out.
Yeah.
So I think putting a ban on that side of things could be really dangerous for a media agency that is specializing in paid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're gonna get to talking, about all of that, but just coming back to, especially those, like, those two mistakes that you mentioned about the account structure. I'm sorry, remind me of the first one. Was about
The account currency.
the account currency. That's it. Like someone has made that mistake. What's your advice to them of literally someone else, they found it, someone else about to find it, or it's their time their turn to it's their turn to tell their manager and they're up for a promotion. Do they tell or do they wait till after the promotion? No, no, no. Let's not give that advice. But like, what's your advice to someone who's just feeling a little bit nervous to finding out a mistake that they've just seen in terms of like doing the currency stuff and as well the account structure mistake?
I think I'm one for like very much over dramatizing things that I do, like, and probably more so on the mistakes than the wins, to be
Yeah.
honest. So actually recently I sent a classic mistake, sent a client monthly report, attached the wrong report.
God.
Luckily the report I attached didn't have any sort of like sensitive information in it or anything. And it is as simple as sending another email and saying,
Yeah.
sorry, that was the wrong attachment. Disregard it. Here's the right one. But at the time, I was like, I'm losing my job. This is the worst. And I was like, you know, you can say things in your head. I was like, oh, what an idiot, and things like that. But actually, you know, grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
they'll delete the email. They've got what they needed. So
Yeah.
I think it's always important to. I think accountability is really important. Yes, saying I made this mistake and I shouldn't have, but I'm a human. But
Yeah.
also, like, on the flip side of accountability, also giving yourself some grace. You know,
Yeah.
we aren't surgeons. The mistakes we make, I've never been in a situation where one of the mistakes I've made has been sort of life threatening to anyone.
Yeah.
And so, like, kind of give it the gravity that it deserves,
Yeah.
but don't give it more gravity than it deserves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the great balance. And that's what we said at previous conversations. I think, yeah, I say this a lot, and I just don't want people to take away from, like, from what we're saying here, that, oh, mistakes don't matter, you'll always recover from a mistake. Take the gravity of what you're dealing with a client that are entrusting their budget with you, as opposed to loads of other agencies that they could have gone to. So have that care. But also, in the same way, don't, you make a mistake. It's not the end of the world. We're not heart surgeons here. We are just, yeah, we're trying to do the best with technology and updates always changing. So yeah, focus on the solution and get it back on track is the really important thing. So yeah, we're gonna even come back to some of the previous things that you've just talked about in terms of, like, how people use AI and the tips for max CPCs. But before we get into that, what's like one thing you want to leave people with about, those stories in terms of mistake making?
So when I was interviewing for the head of paid media position at Hallam, I had to basically say what I think like the values of a PPC team should be. And I came up with three, but I have a favourite, and like I don't know if it does have a swear word in it. So. Okay, cool. So this value that I do think is genuinely should be sort of the bread and butter of any PPC team, and it's FAFO, so like FOMO, but FAFO, and it stands for fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like there's an element of even tests that do awful, even these experiments that you run, they
Yeah.
get 50% of the budget most of the time, even if it sucked and you had awful performance. You've learned something, you've got
Yeah.
those learnings that you can take on with you, and I don't think any experiment, even the ones that go badly, should be ruled out if it gives you new information.
Yeah, as long as it gives you new information, and don't even necessarily rule it out completely. Come back to it. Come back to that test, because it might just be timing that is the issue for
Yeah.
that test. So yeah, no, that's amazing. FAFO, I love that phrase.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been used. It's used. I've seen a lot on, like, social media, and I'm like, yeah, some people messed about and they found out.
Yeah, and I love it. And there's also, like, something I used to say is, like, the best research skill you can have is just being nosy and wanting to find out. So and that kind of goes hand in hand, is that, like, if you don't know what will happen from an experiment, run the experiment, and then at
Yeah.
least you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And then going into other mistakes that people make, you did mention, yeah, like, even it's more even like for tips. Maybe we don't use our controls as much in terms of, like, CPCs. But what else? Anything like else that you like when you audit accounts, when you guys have won new accounts? I'd say even account structure is, like, being granular. That was that's a big one to definitely note. Anything else that you feel like, 2026 people are still doing and that you're still shocked by?
A good one that, like, kind of always trips me up is I think I'm more sensitive to seeing ads than anyone I've ever met. So, like,
Yeah.
I will watch the YouTube ads. I,
Right.
like, genuinely enjoy seeing ads. And then it kind of puts me in a frame of mind like, why did I see that ad specifically? Like, what in-market audience have I fallen into that I've
Mm,
been put into this ad's targeted audience? So things like remarketing, I've had some recently specifically relating to that travel client actually, where I was doing sort of competitor research over their peak season, and out of date ad, and like out of date sales copy, or like in January I was still getting ads like the perfect Christmas present, and I was like, no, I was like, you need to pause this and you need to change your message
uh,
immediately because it just annoys me so much.
yeah, yeah. You don't want to annoy your customer, especially someone who is like thinks of you as a great brand, and all of a sudden, yeah, they're seeing an ad. They're like, you guys should have changed this. And especially for the fact that a lot of advertisers are advertising to advertisers. Like I don't think we just think we're just most of the public are just, doctors or nurses or, a salesperson, like a General Joe. But like some of the people that see your ads are also marketers, and they're going to be like, I know what could have fixed this, and I'm annoyed with you for being lazy. We're the worst in terms of like seeing our ads.
Something I do is like, I'll take a screenshot of an ad, and I have been known to like post about it on LinkedIn before, like not in a mean way, but just to be like, here's my 2 cents.
Right.
And like genuinely, I've given myself this anxiety that someone's going to do that with one of my ads.
Well, it makes you check. We must make you check your ads a lot more careful. Like literally, let me make sure my remarketing and audience targeting is properly, so that I'm not showing to the wrong person before they talk about it on LinkedIn. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think I hear people talk about that, and I feel like it can be a bit of it's a marketing brain that we have. I don't think necessarily people are care. People are just going to be annoyed with it and go, I won't yet use that brand again. But if you're a LinkedIn personality and you will like push on LinkedIn, those are the people that you get a little bit paranoid that you may do the wrong thing about you. Also, like, and you kind of mentioned on it, but like you've given even more drilling down in terms of like mistakes when it comes to AI. What are like some of like the big ones that you find people doing?
I think like this is going to be the first answer that would spring to mind if you asked anyone this question, but like giving it enough information, whether you're using sort of an in-platform AI or an AI specific tool, or if you're using sort of an LLM like ChatGPT, making sure that you're giving it as much as you're trying to take from it. I couldn't go to ChatGPT and go, write me a paid media blog, and it give me something helpful. Like it would be probably the worst paid media blog in the world. Whereas if I go to it and say, I'm going to write this blog that is about creative advertising in B2B marketing, for example, then it knows what we're talking about at least. Then you tell it a bit about why you need the help. I am the head of paid media at Hallam, so I need to make this content so that we get listed in like search results, so I need it to have these keywords, and I know that I want to talk about these specific things like brand versus performance marketing, for example. Then it's got this full arsenal of a checklist to walk itself through, and then the output, in my point of view, probably still wouldn't be perfect, but it's given me this framework that I can then go and add some sort of like human elements and personal like personality to it and everything like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's definitely important, is to add in the data to it. Yeah, because if you're just letting AI just pull its research from wherever, there's so much nonsense out there on the internet. And if you're gonna just tell, ChatGPT or Claude, like, use that nonsense as my resource, yeah, you're gonna be burned for that one. But there was also one that I remember you mentioned, like, because I'd like to dig in a little bit more in terms of that about an agency you said that literally banned AI. Like, what
Yes, I
nonsense?
have. Yeah, I have worked at an agency that banned all AI use, and like even sort of I see the merit in not using AI to write your content, because then you've just got loads of content that looks the same as all the other content out there. So I'm completely on board with that. But even things like not using AI within Google Ads, it's like we kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, and they banned bid strategies, was it? Because it was too oh God.
Yeah, so
Why?
using like as of like a couple years ago as well, still using fully like manual CPCs, and it's like generally just like terrible practice, I think, because humans can't guess what bid it should be every second of the day. It feels like a big time waster.
Yes, it's absolutely a big time waster. And who knows, maybe like for people who want to pitch for other clients, say that we will use automation. We won't use it for everything, but we will use it because you need to be using it. And any agency that is literally going, ban AI, ban any automation, that will worry me. If they said that, if I figured that out at the interview, I would be pulling out from my from my application, going, no, I'm good. Gonna go somewhere
I think
else,
you can
because
do anything, right? It's just like telling the world that you're not willing to try anything new,
right.
and I guess getting outdated very quickly in
Yes.
this year at least.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, don't get outdated, because seriously, we just need to learn how it's going to work. I keep saying, like with other marketers, that, for people who are just going to stick their head in the sand and going, I don't like this, I'm not going to test it, just going to stick, everything is going to, it's going to, the advancement, the technology is going to run by you. You're going to miss it. With your head stuck in the sand, you're going to lose your clients, and you're not going to win in this industry. So if you've made your millions and you're ready to retire, fine, you can be that kind of person. But you still need to grow with this industry, learn how the AI works, and make sure you're giving it the right inputs to ensure that, it does what it needs to do for you.
And also, the longer you put it off, like, the bigger your task list is going to get. Because, like, if I hadn't tested smart bidding by this point, for example, we're way behind on testing things like new landing pages or different forms or, like, different types of content. And I think, the more you put it off, the more you've just got to do in the long run.
Absolutely. And I even think, like, Google came out with PMax, and there's a lot of, we learned how we saw how PMax was developed. It was a bit of a mess at the beginning. They made it better. And then, they're now giving us, the controls, visibility, channel reporting, that kind of thing. And now that we have AI Max, because we paid attention to what we kind of like, okay, AI Max is not really working well. And we are like, yeah, we get it. We've been through the story. We've been through this pathway. We've gone down this journey. We know that there's going to be a bit of a mess at the beginning. They're probably going to then improve it. Maybe they're going to give us some more visibility through AI Max. You never know. But we kind of get what the story is, and you become part of the conversation. And Google starts paying attention to what you need and what you request for, instead of just going, the people who are just going to go, I don't like it. It's all AI. I hate it. No one's going to listen to you either. So, yeah.
No, I think if you want to slate a tool for not being good enough, at least use it and get good feedback to give the tool on, like PMax.
Right.
Like, I personally did test it before they had all of this sort of new insights that you can now surface. But even before that, there were scripts that could pull that in. Like, it was like getting blood from a stone, but you could get the information.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, that has been fantastic conversation. We've gone back through this so quickly, Maddie. Thank you for that great insight on account structure and, like, bidding, making sure you're checking your currency, guys. Because, it's not always going to work out that you're underreporting. You might find out currencies work so different. The pound is very strong. You might find yourself that you're actually overreporting, and then you get yourself in like hot water. So make sure you're doing that correctly. So thank you so much for all those insights, Maddie. Before we leave, a nice, fun, non-PPC related question, although there's a bit of a string attached there. If your PPC career were a movie, what would the title be?
Wow, that's such a
The question was in the plan. It was in the planning doc, so I hope it's not too much of a surprise. But it can be a movie that you've watched, or you can just come up with a brand new title of just what comes to mind. It can be anything.
I'll go with something fast-paced to ring true to my Formula One fact. So let's go with Rush.
With Rush.
Not because I'm rushing, just because PPC moves so fast-paced.
That is a fantastic, that fantastically makes sense. Yeah, Rush the movie. No, I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't watched it, I'm not like a huge F1 Formula One fan, but I actually really, really enjoyed that one. So Rush, because the industry moves at a very fast pace. So I feel Google always seems to be rushing out with something. Like, I feel like because of ChatGPT, they might have rushed out, or they should have, what all the experts have saying, they should have come out with their AI with Gemini, but ChatGPT kind of make them rush to the gates of their deadline, but they could have come out with it because they have all the data and they have it there. Anyway, I could talk about all the different ways as to what AI means for our industry. But thank you so much, Maddie, for joining us today. Where can people find you if they want to hear you slating other ad copies, peoples? Or just in general, sharing your great ideas about how to do paid search properly.
I am very active on LinkedIn, so that's probably the best place to find me. Maddie Lightening.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maddie. And hopefully we'll see you at a conference soon. Because you do a lot of speaking engagements as well. But until then, speak to you later. Thank you, Maddie. Bye. Thank you so much, Maddie, for sharing that very honest and very great and transparent experience over a couple of stories, not just about, underspending, underreporting, but also about editing CPCs. And also remembering the note of like, when it comes to AI, there's no one size fits all. We shouldn't be all gung ho and using AI for everything, but also not trying out AI and not seeing what it can actually do for your clients' campaigns, for your accounts. You're really doing a disservice to the business as a whole, to the business revenue, and how quickly you can get things done, and how, you can get another pair of eyes. AI should be like that extra set of eyes on the work that we do to ensure that we are getting the work done very well and very quickly for our clients. So yeah, for all the information and the full transcript and not just show notes, please go to podcast.ppc.live for the full details of that fantastic discussion. So yeah, in terms of our PPC live events, as I'm recording, we've got 3 weeks left. So yeah, 21 days. We're going to be back at Brighton. We're going to be at Temple Pub. I think it's called Temple, but go on ppc.live for all the proper details. Don't take my word for it. We've got some fantastic speakers for you. Jack Wilmore from We Discover. We've got Amina Demiri, who is the head of digital at Vixen Digital, and Julia Libra, who is also coming all the way from Germany. And yeah, she helps with growing the Danish market for the agency Precis, and she's going to do just that, talking about growth in terms of going into different channels and ensuring that you're not just doing a finger in the air, a strategy in terms of how you're going to actually distribute your budget. So yeah, that's definitely the kind of conversation we really need to be having to ensure that in our world of AI, we're doing the most for our clients and we're pushing those budgets to its limits to ensure that we're getting the amazing return on investment for our clients. So yeah, join us on April the 29th in Brighton, which is just going to be on the eve of HeroConf and Brighton SEO. And if you go onto our PPC Live site, and if you go to PPC Live on tour, there is menu. There's a new menu option where you go into our events menu and you click down and you get the different options to further dig down into what to the different pages in the website. Check out the PPC Live on tour menu option, and that'll take you to a page to the different events that I'm going to be at this year. It's not just going to be HeroConf. I'm going to be at SEM Stories. I'm going to be at SMX Advance. I'm also going to be at the European Search Awards in Portugal. So yeah, I'm going to be traveling. My poor cat. Does anyone want to cat sit my cat while I'm away? All those trips. If you love hanging out with a cat in the UK, yeah, let me know. Otherwise, check out and come and hang out with me in any one of those locations. But yeah, go to ppc.live to either get a ticket or to find out which events that you can find me at. So yeah, before I leave you, I'm delighted to also share that I am taking on coaching clients just to help people with their confidence, to have those conversations, those hard conversations, to get the promotions, or even just navigate the digital marketing field and ensuring that you are really getting ahead in your career. Yeah, just go to themarketinganu.com to have a conversation with me about that. I'd love to have that initial free 15-minute discovery call so that we know exactly what it is that you need. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the show and I look forward to bringing more PPC F-ups and triumphs next week. Thank you. Bye.